Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When it comes to home and auto insurance, it's important to have the right coverage from a company and an agent you can trust. Someone who will help you properly protect the people and things you love most. So if the unexpected happens, you and your family can rest insured. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going good. We have a great guest today. This lady has been a part of, I think she's a part of every organization in the state of Kentucky when it has to do with agriculture, pretty much. Now she's a busy lady, does all kinds of really neat work for the industry here in Kentucky. So we're excited to have her here today.
Yeah, Melissa's fabulous, and she was close by, but we had to do a couple reschedules because she is so dang busy with all the things she does. So we're very thankful she made it here.
Yeah. I think everybody's going to really like the conversation we have today. If you've never met her, she's very likable. She's a fun lady. She really believes in what she's doing. And I think our audience is really going to like this.
Yeah. So without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
And this is Between the Rows. All right. Well, how's everybody doing?
It's a Friday, nice day, and we have a great guest here today, and we're happy she came to the studio podcast room to have a nice little chat today. So.
There you go. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think if anyone has been to the fair in the last month or so, if they didn't see you, they weren't on the south end of the facility. So
you weren't at the
West
fair,
side.
if you didn't.
There you go, west side.
Yeah,
Good call.
I was over in the West Hall.
Good
West
call.
Hall.
So let's kick this thing off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Melissa?
So I have basically committed a lot of time recently to agriculture, of course. Started off my time actually just as a volunteer at Farm Bureau. Got on the board probably 6 months to a year after we moved back to Kentucky, and started there and did young farmer stuff for a little bit, but I was just about aged out, so that didn't last long. But we moved into doing that and just kind of got committed into the community a little bit more and getting more involved that way. And been there since, I think it was 2017 is when I started, so I guess 7 years now, something like that. And been a crazy journey since. Very thankful for Farm Bureau and all the things that they've done for me, my county, the state, even at the national level with AFBF. But that's how all of this kind of dwelled into and continued. It started off with, just hanging out, volunteering for Farm Bureau in the county for Bullitt County, and moved into, I decided to go back to school to learn more about ag because I didn't already, produce produce and had animals and stuff, and COVID, and didn't have anything to do, and kids on their computers doing stuff, and heaven forbid mom walk out the door. So I've figured out real quick I might as well find myself something to do and sit here. So started school, and then from school turned into more programs, went through LEAD, the AFBF communication stuff, and then got a call and was asked to start working for Kentucky Poultry Federation and Kentucky Teach Ag. So started doing that with outreach, and after that, somehow, by some miracle, I am now at Kentucky Department of Agriculture working for Raising Hope as the program coordinator. So, but I also teach at ECTC, and I'm still going to school at Murray, and hopefully with everything, I'll be done. Bachelor's in December and master's in May.
Excellent. Very cool. So farming wise, what do you guys raised? You kind of alluded to it a little bit there, but
so we do have a very small farm, and I think that was one of my first mental blocks when it came to Farm Bureau stuff, because like all these people talk about their 100 acres, 10,000 acres, and I'm like, yeah, I've got 3.5. I grew up on a 260-acre hay farm. I mean, I know. My husband grew up on a dairy farm for a short period of time before he left, but it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, do we really compare? But then when you're out there and you're doing produce by hand and you have no machinery and you're doing everything on your own by yourself with the occasional family help that reluctantly wants to pick green beans, you will, it's like, no, we're still here. We're doing it. started off really simple. You know, we got some chickens and, you know, I started selling some eggs because, of course, as always, you have too many of them. But then people wanted more stuff at the farmer's market. So I was like, well, okay, let's start with some produce. So I started doing a little bit of produce and it turned into a lot of produce. And then this year I said, I've got way too much on my plate. I need a year off. So we've focused back on eggs, and I put cover crop and flowers and stuff for the pollinators in 2 of our larger plots and have let the bees have that until we lost our bees this year. So finicky. But yeah, it's, you know, we've done well, and I think we did the farmer's market probably 6 years. We started off with the Shepherdsville Farmers Market, and then eventually moved into the West Point Farmers Market. And then, like I said, this year we just had to take the year off. And I know that that's not something that everybody can do. I know once you're farming, but I had to. Like, I'm pretty sure my husband might have thought about divorcing me if I tried to do one more thing. So it was kind of part of it. But we enjoy it, and my son's a big part of that. Everybody knows Lane, and he is a character. I'm pretty sure he was just born in the wrong generation. He dresses just like all of our members that are at annual meetings and things like that, with his, you know, blue jeans and boots and a lot of extra parts on his belt. I'm like, I can't keep up with what he has on there anymore. But he does, or was interested in bringing sheep back to the farm. So we brought sheep back to the farm. He brought rabbits back one time after showing them. And then we ended up, he wanted to do bees, so we started with beekeeping, and we did okay the first year. We even survived the first winter. But by this spring/early summer, they bailed. And then a friend of ours, Scott Moore with the Beekeeping Association, he brought in a swarm to help us, and they bailed. And I was like, okay, all right, it's too late in the season. We're done. We're going to try again in the spring. So that's kind of... It cracks me up because he wants to try everything. And now his newest thing with him and my husband is they've been building a cabin. And I'm like, are you moving out? Because that's what I feel like is happening. I mean,
what are you trying to say here?
Literally, we were out there the other day, and I was like, this is nicer than, like, I could live in this. And my mother-in-law's like, that's a cool little, can it be the mother-in-law? I said, we're all going to have to fight Lane over it. So we might as well just stop because it's not going to happen. But yeah, so he's an adventure, and a lot of the reason why I've pushed into so much of the produce and stuff like that is because he wanted to do it. Of course, when we're mid-season and there's green beans to pick, nobody's around, but you know, it's whatever.
Well, I think it's interesting talking about not feeling like your acreage makes you ag. Not comparable, but I think it's so funny. When I grew up in West Kentucky, which is known to be a very crop-heavy area in the state, and we had cattle, and we raised show pigs, so we had some hogs. And but my parents both worked off-farm jobs. My mom was home when we were kids, and then when we all got into school, she worked off-farm. So in my head, I didn't really grow up on a real farm. For a very long time, that's how I took that, because I was like, well, we didn't full-time farm. My parents had other jobs, you know. And so all of the guys that were farm kids, to me, their parents were, at least one parent was full-time farming. And so then I moved to Central Kentucky. I've met a lot of people that it's more like your scale, where they're the ones that feel like, well, we're not farming. You know, what you did growing up, that's farming. So I think we play this giant comparison game in agriculture sometimes. I think it's every industry, but we were really bad about it in agriculture. And I always want to, I hope that we are getting better about that and being more open. Our farm market programs helped a lot with that. I think some of our county farm bureaus right outside of some of our major cities are doing a really good job of trying to be like, no, your 5 acres counts, your 2 acres counts. Your kid just trying to do something for a 4-H project, that counts. Because those kids could one day end up full-time farming or doing just like we are, and that's still ag. I mean, so I think it's so funny for me to hear you say that comparison, because I was bigger, quote unquote, than y'all were, and I had the same thought in my head. So I think it's all about where you're from and who you compared to, and it's a good perspective to have to bring more people to the table, I think.
Yeah, we get this a lot when we do the Young Farm Family videos. So often, a lot of the young farmers are like, well, I couldn't even compete in that. And, you know, this is not to toot our horn, but I'm like, we can make a lot of farmers look pretty good.
Yeah.
Then I go to some of these folks and I'm like, your farm could maybe compete in this thing. And they're like, nah, no way. And I'm like, just like, give us a minute. We shoot your farm. You're gonna go, oh, we look epic. This looks big. And so I always tell folks, it's like, I go to these every year. This ain't bad. I'm just saying. So I see that a lot with what we do because I think our videos highlight people in a way where it kind of looks like
it does.
Their farms are just these massive things, and I'm like, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are. I won't lie to that, but yeah, you see it quite a bit.
I think it's a pro and a con of a farmer. Your average farmer is very humble and always seeking to be bigger, better for themselves and their next generation, their kids. And with that, sometimes comes that slight, I don't quite qualify.
And they're competitive. It's a little mixture. They're all real competitive. I've never met one that isn't competitive in some way. So
anyway, and I applaud Bullitt County, Jefferson County, Oldham County. We've got some, and I'm saying the ones by Louisville just because you're Bullitt County, and those are ones I'm thinking off the top of my head. But those groups in especially these last few years since COVID, I think they have done a very good job of really pulling in people your size and reminding them, hey, we don't just want you to come to the meeting. We want you to be on the board. We want you to tell your opinion. We want you to tell us how we can help. That's a big deal.
I think initially we had plans to be bigger, but, land prices the way they are, the way that, what we're losing, in our county specifically, we're losing farmland hand over fist. And it's a reality, and we know that. But there was always a stigma for me, and that's why, we brought that up. But I would say it was really interesting. The first time that I ever had somebody kind of shut me down when I was like, I don't really want to talk about it. Like, I'm 3.5. Was at an American Farm Bureau convention, the annual meeting. And I was sitting there and we got to talking with, I think they were from Nebraska, if I remember right. And I didn't know who she was, didn't pay any attention, whatever. And we were talking, and she was like, oh, what do you all do? And I was like, oh, we raise produce and lambs and chickens.
Yeah.
And, she kind of looked at me, and at first she was like, she could tell I was hesitant, and she's like, okay, well, that's great. That's, you're still a part of it, da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, it's only 3.5 acres. And she was like, what? And? So if I got 100, we do 500 acres of cattle, but it's whatever. Like, that's still awesome. You're still doing it. And I'm like, wait, did you say that? Like, it was really like, because most of them are competitive. Most of them are like, nah, you ain't got nothing. Like, I don't know why you're even talking or why you're here sometimes. But because there is that attitude of, and because there's always going to be somebody that doesn't think that's real farming because they grew up, the way they did. Well, I did too, but family situations ended up with us not having the 260 acres anymore when somebody passed. So, it's a hard story and a hard thing to deal with, but I'm not one that dwells on what my life, I was given a great life, and what happens, and you got to kind of, so in a way, I'm back to being a first generation farmer. But it's fine because we're doing things differently. It's not, hey, good Lord, I don't want to do hay again anyway. Like, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, nah, I'm okay with I can go up to 10, but I don't know about doing anything, And my husband might kill me if we go to 10 because he'll know I want to fill it, and that's just not possible. But it was interesting when she said. So then it was really funny because I'm sitting there talking, and the next thing they know, they announced this person to come up and talk, and it was her. And I was like, "Oh, whoops."
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I did something wrong, and like she was trying to convince me to be part of it just to make me feel better. And then she goes up there and she's like some big person, and I'm like, "Whoa, whoops."
Yeah.
And she come back later and she's like, "Oh, it's good meeting you," and I'm like, "Good to meet you too." Yeah. Like, I feel like I stepped on my own tongue. Great. But it really, like Renee said, it's been pushed a lot harder. I've enjoyed seeing people that have taken their smaller acreage and made it into something because, let's be honest, you can put a whole lot of green beans on an acre and make a lot of money. And it's not going to be your full-time farming. They're going to have off jobs or off the farm jobs. But it's the heart. It's I'm trying to do something. COVID made a big difference. People started realizing, I might want to make my own food. I don't know how many homesteaders we got now, but there's a pretty good community of them. Yeah. And they're all trying to find ways to not only take care of their own family, but to also, make a little income on the side when they have extra. And I think it's a great thing. I think that we just kind of all need to remind ourselves why we're here, what we're doing. Even if it's just feeding the small community around you or you're feeding the whole world, it's still a part of it, because without it, we're not going to be able to do it together. So I think it's a big part. But it was always interesting to me at the beginning because I have a struggle with that. And I mean, honestly, my husband did too. And I'm sure his dad, in a way, was like, what? She's doing what? Like, I know a lot of the times he would get off the phone with his dad, or he came and visited us for the first time since we've been there for 7 years. And he was like, oh, I thought it was more than that. Because, again, dairy farm, large row crop, you know, him and my brother-in-law do that. And so I think, in a way, like, I still have to fight my husband over the stigma of, like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's like, you know, so we go round and round with that. But God love him, you know. I'm trying to convince him, but I get it. I understand where he comes from, because that's just, you know, that's the industry. I mean, unless it's something huge, we're not really sure. So, but it's good.
Well, you've kind of answered it some, but I'm going to ask it in a little different way. So you did all the schooling. Your husband's worked hard in his job. I mean, you guys have gotten to the point, and kudos, all these life changes, and you've got the job, and he's going to have this, you know, why are you going to put it back in farming again next year? Why are you going to bring it back? Why have farm on your acreage? You've done it. You've made it to the point. You're involved in all the community activities. You have the job. Why are you going to put it back into the production again next year?
Because it is my happy space. I can turn all the electronics off, leave them far, far away, and I can go out and just be in my own. But the other reason is seeing the faces of the people that come to our farm to pick up eggs, to come to our farm to get produce. When they call us and they're looking for specific things, and the next year I grow it and they come back. I've got a gentleman that absolutely loves our canned green beans. Like, he will literally buy it in a livestock, I'm pretty sure. And I haven't heard from him in a little while, but that's fine. I know if I called him and said, hey, I've got extra green beans, you want them? He'll be like right there at the door.
Do it. Yeah.
But I know that I'm meeting some needs in my community. Yeah, do I wish I was bigger? Sure. But do I know realistically, is that going to happen right now? No. And one of the other things that I was very cautious of when I started doing any of this was to not put a financial burden on my husband, because he left the farm. He didn't want anything to do with the farm. And then the crazy lady comes in, like all the memes and the TikToks and the reels that you see of guys you don't want the, the high maintenance lady, but when you end up with the not high maintenance lady, you end up with chickens and cows and who knows what else she's going to bring home. And you've got to make a pen. And my poor husband, I don't know how many times either me or Lane has brought something home and he's had to figure it out. And he has. We brought those rabbits home, and he's like, you're doing what? And I'm like, I don't know. Your son made a deal with somebody, and he's bringing rabbits home. And he's like, where are we going to put them? I'm like, I don't know. And so the next 2 weeks, we end up spending the time making this big rabbit hutch that ends up being some Taj Mahal of a rabbit hutch. And I'm like, now we need more rabbits.
Yeah, we need more rabbits for us.
But it comes and goes. But I think that part of it's just meeting the community needs. Part of it is my own soul needs to be in the ground and, feel and do. And I think labor is something that every kid should learn and needs to understand that pride that you get when you produce something that you did and then you meet the needs of somebody else, because the reality is, as much as sometimes it's all about us, it really does need to be about others. And I think that that's part of one of the things that I've always tried to do is, I wanted to learn more about agriculture, but it was really so that I could help other people learn and understand more about agriculture, because a lot of the times we have to tell our story, or we have to stand up for what we're doing, or we have to explain why we do what we do certain ways, because there's other people that pay more in advertising to get their point across and to scare consumers and things like that. And I think that people now want that connection with their farm more. They want to understand where their food's coming from more. They want to understand the processes more. And I think that the more we can do that and become a partner with the consumer instead of constantly trying to battle them with what they want or what we need to make it happen, this allows it all to come together in the long run. And it's just, like teaching at ECTC. I'm getting to help teach the next generation. Okay, let me show you granted, there's a whole 30-year, 20-year difference between you and me, but if you don't wait till you're 40, you might be able to do this a whole lot easier and retire instead of know that that's never going to happen. We have that conversation, but I do career development, and this semester we're doing ag issues, which with resolutions and all the experience I have in all of that, it's great and it's one-on-one, but I can bring this to them and let them see both sides. So the other day we did labeling and marketing and trying to get them to, okay, like these are all the things that are put on labels, but let's talk about what they really mean, and did you think about, so I put them in situations where they had to go to the grocery store and pick out 3 different items in 3 different sections, like produce, processed foods, and the meat department. And they have to kind of look at the packaging, see what stands out. They have to just kind of get an idea as to what the marketing and labeling and what drew you to that product versus the other. And it was an interesting conversation, but a lot of it is, when we talked about the different terms for the poultry industry, they just, it gives them a different side. And then they start saying, oh, okay, sorry, having the non-GMO part of it or whatever on there. We talked about what really is a GMO, what products that we have, and there's not many of them because they don't even realize it. And so it's really, you think that you're just, at first, in my mind, I'm like, I'm just making sure they get through the class and we give them the information we can. But the funny part was that they were like, oh, okay. So it just kind of changed their mind. And so a lot of what we do, I do it for education, for community, for, telling the stories of different people to understand what's going on and to help the next generation see in a different light.
Yeah. So tell us a little about Raising Hope and what you do with that now and your position, and just talk about, that's a newer thing for you, right? So tell us a little about what that program is and kind of your role in that.
Sure. So started out as kind of like a volunteer in a way. Once I heard about Raising Hope and what it did, and Dale Dobson, that, with the coin challenge specifically, it kind of resonated with me. At one point, my husband was on a sheriff's department in Indy when we lived up there, and, they had challenge coins and stuff for the services there, but they do it for fire departments and things like that. But it's a way that I feel like there's a lost cause in some instances where people don't shake hands anymore. Then you had COVID where people were scared to shake hands for a while. But as somebody that grew up in farming, we know that when you shake somebody's hand, like that seals the deal, that finishes a sale, that, tells somebody something that you are meaningful about. And so to work with kids that live behind phone screens and things like that, to shake a hand to somebody and tell them they're appreciated, you would have thought you'd told them to go stand on a cow and survive. It's a struggle with the generations that are coming up because they are more focused on electronics and technology. So anyway, when I found out what he was doing and with the challenge coin, when he shook my hand for the first time, we all have good days and bad days. It's a reality. And some days are harder than others and some days aren't. But your beliefs and your religion or whatever you believe in that make you get through the worst days is sometimes good, but it's also good to have somebody come up to you and shake your hand and, in a world of everybody criticizing, tell you that you're appreciated and they're thankful for what you do. That means a lot, and it meant a lot to me. And so I kind of kept going that direction, but I helped Dale out occasionally. North Bullitt High School, I worked with quite a bit. Beforehand, I would go to the classroom, and because they're in our county, and again, I like to work with the kids, and so we've done poultry demos, and they've hatched my eggs for our farm, and we've done a lot of stuff like that. But he had asked me to come in and help him with that one. I said, okay. So I went up there and met him. The first 2 meetings, he was there and helped us out. And then the next 2 meetings, his schedule just all of a sudden wasn't able to work with that. And next thing I know, I'm doing it by myself. And I'm like, wait, what happened here? But again, I was a volunteer at that point, and I was fine with it because I enjoyed it with the kids. And like I said, we went in and the first meeting, you kind of go over it. He shook everybody's hand. And then the next meeting, they have to commit to the program if they want to do it. and they get 3 coins to go shake people's hands. And then we met again a month later, and I'm like, okay, how many of you got rid of all your coins? Like 2 of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay, talk to me. What's causing you to not be able to give out your coins? Well, I don't want to talk about suicide. I didn't tell you to talk about suicide.
Right.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, I thought that was about this. No. There's information on the coin that says call or text 988. That is information that you're giving them. But you don't have to have a conversation about suicide. The main point of this is to take that coin, shake their hand, and tell them what they mean to you in your life. Tell them that they're appreciated. Tell them that you love them. Tell them that you're thankful for driving you back and forth to all your sports and extracurricular activities, if it's your parents. Tell whoever it is that you're thankful for whatever situation they got you through. Don't focus on the mental health of it fully. That's just luckily a piece of it in the back that will remind them if you can call or text 988 on a bad day. When you shake their hand, remind them they can call you if they're having a bad day, because that starts that little seed. That seed gets planted just like with our farming, and it can grow from there, or you can squash it, and it's all how you kind of reply to that. But anyway, so I made all the kids get up because they were struggling with shaking hands in general. And so I made every single one of them shake all of the other hands. I went around and shook all their hands. By the end of it, they were like, oh, is this what this is like? I was like, yes, firm, solid handshake, look them in the eye, smile, cry, whatever, but make that contact. And so by the end of that meeting, they felt a lot more confident. By the next meeting, they had given out all their coins, including the other 2 that I gave them that day. And the best part of doing this is they write their paper about their experience, and some of those will put you to tears. What these kids go through and what they deal with, sometimes they tell that story, and you can feel the connection and the wait a minute, it was just as good for them as it was the people they shook their hands. And I think that that's important about this. I think that that's what's important about what we do with showing appreciation to farmers. It has been kind of changed a little bit past this past legislation. Brandon Reed was able to pass new legislation that Raising Hope is basically our umbrella, and it now includes farm safety, farmers' health, and farm rescue. So we're basically covering the farmer from the beginning and hopefully not having to rescue them. So we have the giant or full-size rollover tractor simulator that we had at the farm, and we are at the fair, and we also bring to the farm machinery show, and we take it to events throughout the entire state. But it's an eye catcher. You put George upside down in the middle of the floor, and there's a bunch of people, especially during the fair, that are like, "What is going on?" So they sit and we explain it, and we flip him over. And poor George, his neck is done. I need to hire a new farm hand at this point, but he's done great. And then his son Bubba, we have the smaller mini version that's on a pedal tractor, and that's fun too because. And my husband was so funny with this. Some kids would walk in and they're like, "Oh, look, it's a little kid on a tractor," and he's like, "Yeah, watch what it does," and he flips it over and it smashes poor Bubba, and they're like. And it just watches, like, I took pictures of some of these kids' faces, and it's like, I'm pretty sure you just traumatized them. Can we not do that? Like, we're not trying to. He's like, "I know, but it's really hard," because you can tell that it definitely sinks in. And I'm like, okay, that's a good point. But so we do that. But, so we do rollover tractor. We did Kentucky School for the Deaf this year. I really enjoyed that. We taught them and worked with them on a obstacle course with gators and zero turns. And some of these kids have never been on a piece of equipment, never been on a lawnmower. And so they have to go through that tract. And so that was good. And we had a good time with that. But that was some of our safety stuff. We do quite a bit more. And then the farmer's health, mental and physical. So we do health screenings at different events. Big one coming up. And we do focus on mental health and bringing light to that, because we know that farmers aren't going to talk to their doctor necessarily. They're not going to talk to other people. They're not going to go to a therapist. You say therapist around a farmer, and most likely you're going to get thrown off the farm, or it's not going to turn out well. But we both have puppy dogs. Dale has Willie Otto, and I have Scout. And we use them as a conversation starter because a farmer's going to talk to their dog way before they talk to their wife. Sorry, that's just part of it. You know, they have that confidence in them, that animal. A lot of the times those animals they're ride or die, left or right, help them with their livestock, whatever the case may be. And so having our dogs there helps to start that conversation. Hey, talk to somebody. I don't care if it is your dog. I don't care if it's your horse, your cow, your chicken. Go talk to them.
Somebody.
Let it out. If you're really in a bad spot and you're ready for help, let us know. We'll give you the resources that you need. Call or text 988. That's very important. Good days, bad days, doesn't matter. But they've put a lot of resources into making sure that the agricultural community is covered differently, right? Because they're a different breed. They're not going to go to the hospital unless their limb is fallen off or something's bleeding or they're dying. You know what I mean? So, and we know that. So we try to make sure that we have people that are trained for that. And so that's kind of the mental, physical part. We just want to keep them safe. If we keep them safe and we keep them healthy, then we don't have to rescue them. Though we do work with the emergency services and fire departments and police departments and all that. And we do simulated exercises to basically put them in the situation. We give them scenarios that they wouldn't necessarily think about, and they learn how to ask different questions. By doing that, they learn how to rescue a farmer off of an overturned tractor. They learn how to rescue a horse out of a ravine. They learn how to do agricultural-based grain bins, having the turtle tube, having the Great Wall, as resources and training them on those resources so that we can have those throughout the entire state so that nobody dies from being in a grain bin. We get in a hurry. We make mistakes. It's not that farmers don't want to be safe. We know that. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with trying to beat the rain. It has to do with trying to get the hay in. It has to do with keeping those animals alive. It has nothing to do with not wanting to be safe. It has to do with situations that put you in a mindset that you're in a hurry and you just don't necessarily put the right things in place.
Right.
And with that, we just want to bring awareness and make sure that they understand that we're here for them. Whether it's to keep you safe, whether it's to keep you healthy, or whether it's to rescue you, we are going to be that face that tries to do everything for you. I kind of think of it as Raising Hope is where the farmers are appreciated. It's where we accept you. It's where we'll talk to you. It's where we do whatever we can for you because we're not always appreciated as farmers. Right. How many times do we have people telling us how we need to do this? Quit using that. Quit, whatever. They need somebody on their side too, and that's what we are. And that's what we've done. So big day coming up. I am going to do a small plug. Farmers Appreciation Day. It is the second annual Raising Hope Farmers Appreciation Day. It is going to be at Bowling Green at Western Kentucky University, the L.D. Brown Expo Center, Ag Expo Center. It is from 9:30 a.m. Central Time to 12:30 p.m. Central Time. We're going to have rescue, safety, health, all of it, all in one place. We're even putting a career fair together. All the FFAs across the state have been invited. We've invited all of the different entities of agriculture that we possibly could. We've got some sponsors. Farm Credit Mid-America has sponsored the T-shirts this year. So the first 700 people are going to get a T-shirt. And we're going to feed them a free meal till we run out of food. And we're just going to keep going. And we're just, there to show our appreciation. And we would like to one day see that happen across the state. Where every extension office or every Farm Bureau office, everybody on that day that has been designated by the state of Kentucky and the Ag Commissioner, the Wednesday of Farm Safety Week will always be dedicated to Farmers Appreciation Day because we have National Hot Dog Day, we have National Nurse Day, we have Administrative, we have all these days. Let's give a farmer a Farmer's Day. So that's our goal with that, and it's going to be a great day. We're going to give some awards away. There'll be some, Farmer of the Year. The Farmer of the Year for us, for Raising Hope, they have to have decades of experience in safety and rescue, whether their farm does it, whether they go and teach it, whatever the case may be. We give those awards away. We'll have some honorary commissioner and some friends of Raising Hope, people that have helped us along the way, whether it be how to start, where we've been, things like that, partners that have been with us throughout the time. It's come a long way. I'm very proud to be part of this program. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy being out in the public. Sometimes the administrative work's not a lot of fun, but we all know that, right? That's part of it. But I think it's going to be a good thing, and I look forward to September 18th down in Bowling Green, because this is our big event, right? This is our annual meeting part of it. This is we've done this all year long now. Let's thank everybody that's been here to help support us and be there for the farmers. So I think it'll be great as far as that goes. And having the commissioner, he backs us up 100%. We've been called out. It's like, as soon as we go to walk away, he's like, and Melissa and Dan. And I'm like, oh, we should probably stay right here. So you just never know. But he's 100 miles an hour. He has agriculture fully at the forefront. He wants to do absolutely everything he can for the state of Kentucky and for the farmers. And so we support him in that, and he supports us. And, he walks around our office. We have many different offices up there, and he comes through all of them. When he's around and when he's there and he's on campus, he will come around. He'll check with you. How's your program? Everything good? Here's this idea. I want this to happen, and we make it happen, and you bring anything to him and he'll consider it, and we'll go from there. But it's been great. It's different for me, obviously. I've kind of been my own boss in a lot of aspects with, doing outreach and scheduling my own stuff, but it's awesome and I love it. And I appreciate the farmers just as much as anybody else could imagine.
Right.
So you talk about Farm Safety Week, and this podcast airs on that week. If I'm in a county, and it may not have enough time to do it this week, but what are some ways some of the counties across the state have done different activities, different events, outreach? You talk about the challenge coins. I know there's been quite a few high schools and middle schools that have started utilizing those, and you guys help coordinate those. But give them some ideas. Your local Farm Bureau or your local county extension board, they're like, we want to do an event in our county. What's some ideas other counties have done around the state at different times of the year that have been helpful that you think you've heard about since you've been in this role?
So there's a lot of different options, and we have some of them listed on our website, which we're working on trying to finalize, because things are, this is all new. The transition is a big change. Yep. Used to be we had Farm Safety, and then we had Raising Hope. A lot of people, the stigma was Raising Hope was nothing but mental health awareness. And that was the main goal of it, because we needed to start adding that part in, and they started adding the health screenings and stuff. But now having all of it under one section makes a huge difference. So we're making adjustments, but the newest thing this year, especially, which comes to this, and it kind of brings the FFAs to light more than anything, but we now have what's a FFA grant that the commissioner has dedicated $125,000 to, and it's going to include 50 $2,000 scholarships and 5 $5,000 scholarships. And the FFA chapters can put in an application of grant to explain what they're doing with the funds, but it has to be either farm safety, farmers health, or farm rescue. And out of those three, or they can do all three. We're fine with that too. But they have to come up with an event that they have to do, and the money can be used for giveaways. It can be used for a lot of things. The other day when we were at the fair, one of the gentlemen come up and he put together an event that was kind of a farmer's appreciation in a way, but they wanted to bring light to farm safety and give away fire extinguishers. So that there's one in every house or one in every tractor or one in every car when they give them out. Great. That's an opportunity. Put your community at a point where they can all come together, whether it be extension, whether it be your farm bureau, your county farm bureau, or any other entity of agriculture into it. You can do a giveaway like they are. You can do a simulation day where we have a couple different things. We do what's called a pep rally for life. And what they'll do is they will put on a full simulation of an accident happening on a farm, whether it be ATV or something like that. And the kids are on stretchers. The kids are working with the air meds. They're doing the full scene. Some of them are in it. Some of them are outside of it. Some of them are spectators. We have to be very careful about how we do it. If they've had any sort of tragedy at that school, we try to stay away from it because we don't want to put anybody in distress. But we do have people on hand if there is a problem, because you just never know what you might trigger in somebody, whether it be with this coin situation, whether it be with our QPR training, all of our trainings that we do, we keep in mind that may be a trigger for somebody and you need to be there for them immediately. You don't always think about it. It happened in one of my classes. I had Dale come in and do QPR training, and one of my students, it hit her emotionally, and we had to go out into the hallway and have a moment. And I told her, you didn't have to stay here if you don't want to, if you're not comfortable with it, or you can. But that mindset will do that. But as far as events, they can do anything that has to do with the 3 subjects. Like I said, the FFA grant is available this year. But you don't have to have that, right? You can do giveaways. We've started doing Stop the Bleed training. It's really simple for people to become an instructor for that. They can offer that in their county. We can help them with that. There's the doing the health screenings. You can pull community partners that are within your hospitals and things like that to come in and do it too. Like, we don't have to be the only ones to do it. You can set it up for farmers to come in and just do your basic health screenings that they don't have time for, right? It's hard for them to work with the doctor's schedule. So if we can come to them and make it easier for them, give them a free meal, whatever, that's great too. I think the other day there was somebody that they gave away donuts and something to a farmer that day. Like they were giving him breakfast, but then here's this equipment that we need you to, use and know and have. Giving away first aid kits so that tractors have them. There are Stop the Bleed kits that are very useful. It has a tourniquet. It has everything you need that if you end up with a huge wound or there's a problem, like, you can at least stop it. Because yes, you could use a belt or baler twine, but please don't. Our goal is to keep the limb, but it's also to make sure you're alive. So use what you got, but these are better to have. But having events like that, whether it be, a simulated event, whether it be giving out safety items and talking about those safety items or providing health screenings, anybody can do that across the state. And we don't care what day it is. This is just a highlight to bring to light, right? It's the same thing when we do, reading in the classroom and the other activities that we do for Farm Bureau. Just because food checkout week is this week doesn't mean you have to do it this week. It's great if you do, because then we're all kind of on the same page. But we still want to make sure that we're, talking to our legislators. You still want to make sure that you're in the classroom reading to the kids. So please don't just, I missed that week. Sorry, we'll just try again. I know Bullitt County, for our safety day, we have a gentleman that holds a safety day and brings all the FFA kids. And he does a lot of different things with, he has beef cattle. He goes over all of that stuff. But then we come out there raising hope. Dale's been out there the last couple of years. So now it's exciting because it's in my county and I'm doing it this way. But at some point, they're going to be like, is there something that you don't do? Because I'm pretty sure the first year I was representing Farm Bureau and I had somebody representing the State Farm Bureau and I had somebody from ECTC to give them that information that we had ag classes. In the second year, I was there for Kentucky Poultry Federation. It was talking about chickens. And this year, I'm going to be there with Raising Hope. So they're going to be like, wait, either you move around a lot. But
you're part of everything.
Nope, yeah. I'm just part of everything. Yeah. So, but it's, the kids have a great time. We feed them. We talk about safety. Last couple of years, Warren Beeler came out and had a conversation with the kids about, being a leader, being involved in agriculture and what that means. But just bringing the community together, showing appreciation for farmers, providing them with any type of training that will help keep them safe, and, bringing everybody together is the biggest key on that. And anybody can do it at any time, and we love to help you. And we try to be everywhere all the time, but there is only a small hand of us, on the Raising Hope team, and there's only so many trailers and trucks. So, but we do our best, and it's been interesting, and it's enjoyable, but it's very busy. And I'm going to have to owe my husband at some point a couple more vacations or something at some point, because, it's been a huge adjustment for that, too. So it's part of it.
I think we would be remiss if you talk about Raising Hope and you don't talk about the 2 doctors that have been a huge help. And I know I'm missing one. There's one at UK that I'm blanking. But the 2 that I have personally got to work with a lot is Dr. Cheryl Witt and Dr. Susan Jones. And I think they're a great example of, even if you don't know, in your local pediatrician and your local just family doctor in your town, there is a chance someone in there, whether it's a nurse, whether it's the administrator in the front, somebody has a connection to agriculture. Cheryl Witt's a great example, which maybe she doesn't farm every single day, but has this incredible appreciation and grew up in such an agriculture background. And you wouldn't know that when she just walks right up to you. She was working at the University of Louisville. Dr. Susan Jones, of course, her husband, and they run a cattle operation, and he was in the ag department at Western, but she was in the nursing department at Western. So I think it's really interesting. Those two have been, I think, very influential in the communities in the sense that do not negate and think you have to train your local people in your hospitals and in your family practices. A lot of times, all they need is an invitation, and they're happy to jump in. Just like you said, there's only so many people and so many trucks to go around in Raising Hope. That doesn't mean that your local doctor, your local nurses can't fill that void and would love to, just need the invitation. I think that's really cool and helps you locally in your community too. You don't need to be relying on somebody at the Lexington Hospital in Mayfield. You need to know who your people are and figure that out. So I love that plug, talking about local communities getting together. Sometimes I think the most impactful ones don't have to bring Dale and don't have to bring Melissa. I think they're more impactful when they're like, we've got all the resources right here, and we just finally gather them in one place. And I think that's a pretty monumental moment for some of these groups that have done it for a few years when they figure out they've got it all. They've got it all right here. Kind of gather the troops. I think it's pretty neat.
And honestly, I think that's part of what we try to do is to make sure that, you know, you can do this on your own. You don't have to have us. Like we've had, I had somebody reach out right in the middle. I don't know. He was doing an event during fair, and I'm like, yeah, I wish I could be there, but I cannot. What are you needing? What do you think? And he's like, well, I'm just trying to, how do we have that conversation? It's been a rough year, and we're trying to figure out what we need to do, and we're having this event. You know, is there anything that I can add to it? I said, give them breakfast, give them lunch, show them appreciation, and let them know that you're a resource. Maybe get with all of the ag entities in the county, and on one particular day every month, one serves breakfast, one serves lunch, one goes out to the field and does dinner. You know, by showing your support, right? Because how many of them are going and purchasing equipment and dealing with finances and, you know, dealing with these people on a daily basis in that aspect. And most of the time they build great relationships, but does it hurt to go the other way around? Absolutely not, right? So that's what I told them is, you know, don't necessarily focus, again, just like the kids, on suicide or we want to help you with your, you know, your problems. More focus on, we appreciate you. We're going to give you breakfast today when you stop by to get your parts. We're going to give you lunch today. Come by, sit around, talk about it, you know, have some fellowship, you know, let's talk about the weather, you know, do something that brings them all in. And that's one of the biggest things, I think. And like you said, Renee, it's about touching that community. And yes, Dr. Cheryl Witt and Dr. Susan Jones are amazing. Neither one of them like to be called doctor. I get yelled at all the time for it. They're both very humble. I work with Cheryl very closely, of course, because she's closer with us as far as being up here. But Dr. Jones definitely takes care of the 10 counties down there. And they're a big part of what we're doing on the 18th. They've, you know, Susan has been at every meeting, every planning meeting. They're working on that stuff down there with Warren County and just trying to get it all together. And I think it's going to be a great event. But yeah, they were instrumental in starting and putting this thing. You know, Dale was just doing safety, and Cheryl and Susan were very persistent. And, you know, they're like, no, we need to do this part. You don't understand. And eventually they got their meeting, and, you know, Raising Hope was kind of born and kind of grown. And now this is where we're at. And, you know, without them, this wouldn't exist. And I think that that's a huge part. And I think that it's not one person or, you know, the people in the team itself. I think it's a compilation of everybody all together to do towards the common goal, which is taking care of our farmers, because they're taking care of us. And people don't think about that all the time. You know, it's the only person I know that I need 3 times a day regardless. So I preach that to the kids in the classroom. And I know that, you know, we have certain sayings across our thing that we try to get across as far as agriculture goes, but it's reality. And we can live without a lot, but you're not going to live without knowing how to either grow your own food. And I'd like to see somebody grow wheat to turn into flour on a daily basis. Or you're going to learn how to appreciate them. And I think that that's the biggest thing is we have to remember why they're there, what they're doing, because they're just as important as any job anywhere else, but in some aspects a lot more, because without them, we will not survive.
Right. So, you know, you have a lot of different ways to connect with Raising Hope. Tell us some different ways that somebody can get connected with your organization and, via social media, websites, all those things. Give another little plug of how can people connect with you guys and learn more about what you're all doing.
So with Raising Hope, of course, we are under the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and we're working on updating some things as far as the website goes, but some of it's still there, and the rest of it's going to go live sooner than later. So you can go to the Kentucky Department of Agriculture's website, kyagr.gov, maybe ED. I should know that.
We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah. Don't you worry. We'll put it in.
That's too much, guys. Too much going on.
That's okay.
But so you've got the website. You can always reach out to us. We all have company phones that we have on us 24/7. Sometimes I really want to turn things off, but I don't, because I'm just always worried that it's going to be that one phone call if somebody really needs us right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't turn mine off. But we do have that, and that information I'm pretty sure is also on the website. And then you can reach us or follow us on Facebook. Raising Hope KY is ours. We did an awesome thing during the fair, gave away a whole Raising Hope package that included everything from lunch totes to pins to little puppy dogs that were stress relievers and tractors that were the stress balls, and an actual mini stuffed animal of Willie Otto, which is Dale's dog, and I don't know, pens, pencils, everything, anything that you could think of that we give away, it was all in that bag. And so daily we made a post, and daily we chose somebody randomly with a little random selector thing. And so they all 11 people got a whole package of Raising Hope everything. Yep. Yeah, so it was pretty awesome. But we are trying to grow that page and change the kind of look of it as far as what we're doing daily. You know, we put different articles that are out there. We will put, things that happen to our farmers, right now, share the road, like give them some space, back off. If you are in that big of a hurry, sorry, you should have left earlier. Like, I'm sorry, that's just part of it. But we want them to go home just like we want you to go home. So we need you to, kind of share the road. And, with harvest coming up, and we're right in the realm of it's coming, and we're, going quick. And I've heard way too many stories in the last 3 or 4 months of things that have been flipped over, people that have been shoved into guards, this, that, and the other, basically just trying to keep somebody from getting hurt worse. And I think that it's important that we do that. But our Facebook page highlights stories and stuff like that. And again, what our events are, where we're going. But it's a good resource as well. We have lots of links there that you can find to go to. We also have an Instagram page, but I have not put too much time in that. I'm trying to get one thing covered before we work on adding other things. And we're, like I said, it's been a transition. It is still a transition period for us. We're going through a reorg. And once that's all finalized, it'll be a little bit better in the long run. So just kind of bear with us in the growing pains of changing websites and stuff, and not being focused on just one part of what we do, but all three. And but we'll get there. And there's definitely plenty of contacts. I'm sure if you called somebody at a Farm Bureau office, they can tell you how to get a hold of us. Yeah, there's no doubt about that one way or the other. And same thing with FFA chapters. They can reach out to us at any point. 4-H kids, we don't say no to anybody, and we try to do it all. And like we talked about, you don't have to have us, but we can give you guidance. We can give you resources. We can help you with maybe even supplies, depending on the situation. Like we don't commit to anything until we know for sure what's going on, but there are possibilities there. We will do everything we can to help. So
excellent.
Yep.
Well, I cannot tell you how much we appreciate you being here. We laugh. Melissa is a regular with us at Farm Bureau, and she didn't say this part, but she is integral, obviously, on resolutions, but also in our Generation Bridge Leadership Core Committee. She's been to AFBF Women's Boot Camp. If you name an opportunity in Farm Bureau, that's a kudos to your county and to you. You have asked and they have sent. So I think that's incredible. So it's been really fun and a no-brainer to get you on this thing to talk about this going into September. I saw the new role and I said, Matt, we've got a speaker for September. So I just can't thank you enough for being here.
Yep, I'm happy to do it, and always happy to be a part of all the organizations that I represent.
Well, thank you, Melissa, and thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our larger podcast, Kentucky Farm Life, and we'll see you next time on Between the Rows.